Okay, so we've of course just had Ajahn Amaro here visiting us for a couple of weeks, and there's after almost 2 years, I guess, of not having any senior monks coming. With the pandemic, there just hasn't been that much travel and opportunity for receiving visiting teachers. So it was very useful, pleasant to have Ajahn Amaro here. And of course, just for myself, it was very, it was kind of fun actually having Ajahn Amaro here, and as Ajahn Amaro said, getting the band back together again. So and then again with theme of sort of travel movement. On Monday, I will be going to Thailand, and it's been a couple of years since I've been to Thailand, so I have the opportunity to visit other monks, teachers, monasteries, lay people. And that it could be a useful time, and also be able to plug in and help the Thanksgiving retreat from afar. It's one of the things that the pandemic has done, has got us used to and able to do things remotely, online teachings, and the last year was the first time we'd done the Thanksgiving retreat as an online retreat, and I think the overwhelming response was how beneficial it was, and kind of encouraging, empowering to be able to do a retreat, to practice at home, join in with the community here, but then use the home environment as a place of practice. And of course, there's a certain element of missing the personal contact, but overall, I think it was really a fruitful endeavor. So I will be plugging in from a distance to join the retreat. That'll be my quarantine. Yeah. I was thinking, I've been at tea time the last few nights and fielding questions and quick Q&A period. And one of the things that comes to mind is trying to encourage people to approach practice as maybe like a craft like a craft or a skill or an art, where one is using say a medium and learning how to use a medium to express something or to create something. So if it were a craft, if you were using, say, like woodwork or something, just learning, you have to learn how to use the tools. You have to pay attention to the different kinds of wood. If you're trying to create something out of oak, it's going to respond in a very different way than if it were, say, like manzanita or madrone. It's just the nature of the wood is very different, so you have to approach it in a different way. You have to sometimes use different tools to work with it, and so it's a craft or an art, a skill that one has to learn, and our we're working with something different. We're working with a human, say the components of a human being, body, speech, and mind, the elements of the and nuances of the human mind, with its thoughts, its emotions, and that's what we're crafting, and or the art that we're learning of how to use this human condition, how to use this, apply the mind in a way that leads to well-being, to happiness, to peace, to ease, freedom. And it's not, there's many tools that we have, and the Buddha, of course, is the Buddha's teaching are so. It just has such a richness of tools, of techniques, and it's been given to us by the Buddha. We're extremely fortunate, but we still have to learn how to use them, how to develop them, how to develop skill with them. But also, I'm thinking of, I remember Ajahn Chah one time giving the image of recollecting how fortunate we are to. It's just on a certain level, even though it's not easy, it's not that difficult for us because of what the way he said. It's like going into an orchard and collecting fruit. The Buddha has practiced before us. He has he made his mistakes. He had his difficulties, but he also had his insights and his understanding and penetration, and he was able to teach it and lay out a path of practice for us, so that we just have to go ahead and practice it. We just have to do it. He said it's like where somebody else has actually planted the orchard for us, and the trees are ripe. All we have to do is go in and pick the fruit. So we're extremely fortunate, and thinking in that way. Of course, the reality is we still have to. We have to figure it out, and even though the Buddha has given all these methods and teachings and ways of training to us, it still requires a lot of, say, that honing the skill of using them, and as they say, it's like a craft or like an art, and we have to pay attention to how's the heart respond to certain practices, and how does and how it responds now is not necessarily how it's going to respond over time or in the future. Say, I can remember like being introduced to loving kindness meditation. Here's this meditation that is for developing this really wholesome and incredibly good kind of, say, habit of mind of loving kindness, and I remember early on saying, okay, I should practice this, and I just found it irritating. It was like, well, where's that? What's that? Here I'm supposed to sit down and have these thoughts of loving kindness and extend them in this direction and that direction and to this plane of being, and sitting there irritated and grumpy because of loving kindness. I mean, okay, that's not how it's supposed to work. And but it's everything is impermanent, so it managed to change and learn how to use it more skillfully. So that you're developing the meditation, working with the mind. The same with precepts. I think all of us as fairly independent-minded people growing up in a Western culture, having precepts and rules and kind of a form that you're supposed to be following, you kind of push against it, or it is not the initial reaction isn't one of appreciation, but then you start really paying attention to your mind, and you realize, well, that's actually the purpose is not just to follow rules, but to use a form or use a way and a harmless way uh, of acting in actions of body and speech, so that one starts to reflect and investigate what is intention, what's the volition, what's the movement of mind, and recognizing that by having a standard that's really trustworthy, one can let go of one's views and opinions about what one's doing or what one shouldn't do, and pay attention to the mind, pay attention to the heart. That is what is its motivation? What is its compulsion? Because if we don't understand that movement of mind, that the compulsion of mind, the habits that we tend to follow, then we don't really get an insight into how to live skillfully, how to live in a way that really brings kind of peace and well-being to oneself, and peace and well-being to the world around us. So that just learning how to use these tools, learning how to use the circumstances that we find ourselves in as a means of teaching ourselves, because in the end, we have to teach ourselves. We have the external teachings, but it isn't just a matter of, say, conforming to the teachings or trying to force oneself into this mold of whatever the teachings are, or into this set of views and philosophies that we pick up and try to try to conform to it. And we have to learn how these teachings work, how the practices work. We have to learn how to what the result is, and so that learning this as a craft, or as a art, as a skill, and then honing that skill or honing that art, and requires a certain agility as well, an agility of mind or agility of heart that is able to adapt, able to be, say, circumspect and quick in recognizing what works, what doesn't work. It's like comes to mind is Ajahn Tonglat's, is one of Ajahn Chah's teachers. His advice of how to work with the practice. And he said, well, when the kilesas come at you high, then you have to duck. And when they come at you low, you have to jump over them. And this practicality. You don't have to sit and work out a whole philosophical scheme to be successful in the practice. You have to learn how to respond appropriately. And that is the practice. That is the training. And just that working with these the conditions that we have, working with the tools that we have, the teachings are here, and then it's like as Ajahn Chah, they're just picking the fruits so that we we can enjoy the fruits of the practice. Yeah, and of course, one of the problems that we inevitably find we have is the a sense of, it's kind of like goal oriented. We're looking to the achieving the goal, getting the prize, getting accomplishing the task in a way that's really clearly defined, and so one is getting a thing, getting something, and it was Ajahn Munindo is the one who I've heard him express it. And he said that in some practices and some ways of teaching are goal oriented, but another way of looking at it or approaching practice is like source oriented, in the sense of paying attention to the source of the practice, of the understanding, of what we're trying to learn. Because it's and for us and for Buddhist practice, the source is the heart itself, the mind itself. Learning how to when we approach, rather than trying to get some kind of goal, like in I gotta get the jhanas, I gotta get, and not just, of course, not just the fourth, just the first jhana. I mean, you gotta go for at least the fourth, and then there's the different the different knowledges, the insight knowledges that you're trying to get, and and we're always defining it by an external goal. But I think it's just, Ajahn Chah certainly put much more attention on the source, because what we experience, whatever we experience, is determined by the quality of mind that experiences it, and that is so that knowing how to bring this sense of the middle way, because this is the way the Buddha taught, both in terms of the practice. He taught this Majjhima Patipata, the practice by the middle way, but then also the way he taught was the Majjhina Desana, the teaching of the middle. So the middle path, the middle perspective, and the middle is not just kind of some kind of wishy-washy, split the difference and you come up with the middle. It's a place of balance and an equilibrium, a play of harmony, and that is certainly when considering the Eightfold Path, that is the description, and that is given when it's like the different factors of the path working together are the when it works together, because that sense of because usually it's translated of, say, like right view, right thought or right resolve, right speech, right action, through to right concentration. That sense of right is much more right in terms of right in tune, or just right, so that it balances, it works together, it fits together. And so that there is this sense of, okay, it's right because it brings about a sense of ease and clarity. And it's just right because that is what is being relied on at that moment, at that time. This sense of just right. And it's not, there's no way of say, objectively measuring it and parsing it out and dividing it up so that it's more how it comes together, how it coalesces in order to, and you find out, like when you're, like especially, throughout our different elements of what we engage in and how we engage with others, but particularly with the working with it within the meditation, that sense of paying attention. How does that work? It's like just getting the right attention to the posture, getting the right attention to the physical breath, but also the right attention to the and right intention to the elements of kind of lifting up the mind to be energetic, but then also kind of, okay, just relaxing a bit and having an ease that is there's a sense of release and letting go. And all of that needs it's a dynamic kind of process that's working together. You have to tune in so that it is just right. It's like when the Buddha describes, what is right concentration in terms of samma samadhi. What is the right concentration? It's when all the other right concentration is the culmination or the balance of right view, right resolve, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness. All the other elements of the path functioning together. It's not an isolated thing. So that sometimes talking about it, it's like all you're trying to do. It's not that you're trying to define it or get it into a concrete concept, but just trying to encourage that exploration and that willingness to trust the process, and that sense of trusting the teachings, giving oneself to the training, giving oneself to the Dhamma, and that so that sense of trying, you have to keep trying it out, but coming back to the source is always the essential. So it's not, because even that we say, like, just you think of especially in the Thai forest tradition, there's a lot of emphasis on, the purpose of the practice is to kind of establish this sense of kind of knowing, of awakening. But then the knowing isn't like a knowing of objects. It is just the fundamental just knowing awareness. I mean, it's hard to, that sense of just the fundamental ability of the mind, of the heart to be alert and aware. And it doesn't have to go out and define, doesn't have to go out and achieve, it doesn't have to go out and become. All we have to learn is to gain a trust in not complicating that just knowing awareness, and we have to keep returning to the source, coming back to the source. But that source is always nurtured by our actions of body and speech, so that our integrity, our virtue, our ability to hold precepts skillfully, it's a supportive factor. And the ability to not get trapped by the habits of mind that go out and seek distraction, gratification. I mean, that seeking of kind of stimulation, and it doesn't mean one is then trying to cultivate how dull you can be. There's that balance of kind of brightness and awareness, so that again, this source of just knowing awareness, or as of the being the knowing. But there's a brightness there. There's a clarity there, and that is intrinsic to the heart. And not getting caught in the kind of negativity, aversion, irritation. That and there's lots to be irritated with in the world. But is it worth putting our attention there? It's like one of the idioms that Ajahn Chah used to use all the time, in terms of viewing the world, or viewing one's own kind of machinations of the mind. And it says it in Thai, so Canon, and which is like, it's only that much. It's only that. It's only attraction. It's only that much. It's only aversion. It's only that much. Do we want to invest in that? It's only doubt or uncertainty. It's only that much. There's no big deal. It's so much more satisfying to have to return to the source, and to recognize that we have that capacity, and not to overthink it, overcomplicate it, and or disturb it by trying to make it into something else. So that returning to the source. And all these practices, all these perspectives, all these teachings are there to help support that. And again, just coming back to that image of the good fortune that we have of this orchard that has already been cultivated, and the fruits are there for us to experience. So just learning how to not get distracted by other things, and come back to the practice, come back to the foundations. So offer that for reflection this evening.